What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Chael Sonnen dubs Ngannou vs. Jones the biggest fight in MMA. Jon Jones has been teasing a move to heavyweight since late 2012 when he stated during an online Metro PCS fan chat that he would be looking to move up a division the following year. After years of little movement on the jump to heavyweight, he relinquished the title in the summer of 2020 following a controversial decision win over Dominic Reyes. Since then, however, little progress has been made in regards to his move to heavyweight, in some ways through no fault of his own. Time and time again, the UFC was reportedly looking to book a showdown between Jones and heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou, who was fresh off unifying the heavyweight title earlier in the year. Unfortunately, with Ngannou recovering from major knee surgery after the fight, the bout was repeatedly delayed. Going into the new year, it had been reported that the UFC was targeting a March showdown between these two, with Curtis Blaydes reportedly targeted as the backup fighter should the champion be unable to meet the deadline. Chael Sonnen weighed in on the fight in a video released on his YouTube channel, saying,
Jon Jones versus Francis, I think, is the biggest fight you can put on in our industry. I think. But it's also going to be the first time that you've had a massive fight where they got 4 years of inactivity between the two of them. It's a very peculiar situation.
With the UFC reportedly targeting a March showdown between the two, it would likely land as the headlining fight of UFC 285 on March 4th. The card is set to take place in Las Vegas and will be the first of 2 pay-per-view events that takes place during the month. If the fight does end up being finalized, do you think it will break the current pay-per-view record set by Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov with 2.4 million buys? Give us your predictions in the comments below. Dana White breaks silence following footage of altercation with his wife. UFC President Dana White found himself in hot water recently when he was filmed slapping his wife while the two vacationed in Cabo for New Year's. Video footage showed White standing next to his wife, who was covering her face with her hands. When she turned to her husband, she slapped him, prompting him to slap her in retaliation. After the news broke, White spoke to TMZ about the situation, accepting full responsibility for everything that took place.
I'm one of the guys, you've heard me say for years, there's never, ever an excuse for a guy to put his hands on a woman. And now here I am on TMZ talking about it. But my wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. We've known each other since we were 12 years old. We've obviously been through together, and we've got 3 kids. And, this is one of those situations that's, horrible.
As the UFC president went on to explain, he and his wife are more concerned about their kids right now. His wife also released a statement on the situation, saying that White has never done anything like this before. While she didn't directly mention striking her husband first, she revealed that the two have apologized to one another and have discussed the matter with their kids. White's longtime rival, Oscar De La Hoya, was quick to take to social media in order to weigh in on the situation, taking a shot at the UFC president's Power Slap League launching this month on TBS. The shot from De La Hoya isn't entirely surprising given the bad blood that has existed between these two. However, it is worth noting that the former boxing champion expressed an interest in burying the hatchet with White last year. From the sound of things, the feud is alive and well. Beneil Dariush weighs in on Alexander Volkanovski versus Islam Makhachev fight. Streaking lightweight, Beneil Dariush recently picked up an impressive victory over Mateusz Gamrot at UFC 280 to extend his win streak to 8. The impressive performance was enough to move him up to the number 4 slot on the official lightweight rankings, placing him just behind Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Charles Oliveira. With a title shot just out of reach, Dariush couldn't help but give his honest thoughts on the upcoming clash of champions between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. During an interview with UFC.com, Dariush spoke about the fight as well as what 2023 could hold for him as he borders on number 1 contender status. Although he could seemingly sit and wait for a title shot, he doesn't want to be on the sidelines for too long. I don't know what the UFC's game plan is for me, Dariush said. I don't know if I'm ever going to fight for that belt. I have the option of waiting and fighting the winner, but if Volkanovski wins and decides to defend his featherweight belt, I might end up waiting a whole year, and maybe I end up fighting in 2024. I don't think there's anybody who can jump in front of me right now, but my job is winning fights, so let's fight Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira. March is a good timetable for me. With Volkanovski and Makhachev set to collide at UFC 284 in February, It'll be interesting to see what the future holds for Dariush. With Poirier fresh off a third-round win over Michael Chandler and Oliveira looking to bounce back from his recent UFC 280 loss to Makhachev, a fight between either man and Dariush makes sense to determine the next contender for the 155-pound title. How do you see things playing out at lightweight? Give us your thoughts in the comments section below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Matt Brown thinks Belal Muhammad beats Khamzat Chimaev. Belal Muhammad has become somewhat of a dark horse in the welterweight division. With an 8-fight win streak split by a no contest with Leon Edwards, Muhammad has continued to run through the welterweight division. In his most recent fight, Muhammad showed off just what he can do when he's at his best. Following a training camp with Khabib Nurmagomedov and his team, Muhammad put an end to the undefeated run of Sean Brady as he picked up a second-round TKO win. Prior to the fight with Brady being booked, Muhammad was reportedly seeking a fight with Khamzat Chimaev, something the UFC allegedly wanted no part of. After his win over Brady, Muhammad called out Chimaev again. Just this past week, he again called for a fight with the undefeated two-division prospect, shutting down Chimaev's claims that nobody in the division wants to fight him. On a recent episode of The Fighter vs. the Writer, UFC veteran Matt Brown dubbed Muhammad the biggest threat to the division while revealing that he thinks Muhammad beats Khamzat Chimaev in a fight.
But I think Belal is the biggest threat to Usman. I think Belal beats Khamzat. And I'm 50-50 with him beating Usman. I think that's a really close fight that I think goes to a decision and is probably a really, really tough call for the judges. I'm right there with you. I'm sticking Usman's the champion at the end of the year. Belal, biggest threat to Usman.
As he went on to explain, the combination of wrestling and pace from Muhammad are a difficult puzzle for anyone to solve. Although he's split on whether or not Muhammad defeats Usman, he's pretty confident that the number 4 ranked welterweight hands Khamzat Chimaev his first loss. With the trilogy fight between Usman and Edwards targeted for the new year, and a rumored number 1 contender fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Colby Covington reportedly in the works, Muhammad could very well find himself as the odd man out at 170 pounds. With that said, Kamaru Usman was recently seen with his hand in a cast of sorts, leading many to question whether or not a trilogy fight between Usman and Edwards would in fact be the next fight at welterweight. And now for our breaking news story of the day. Alexander Volkanovski thinks Max Holloway is still one of the best fighters at 145 pounds. When Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway squared off for the third time, it was quickly apparent that Volkanovski was the better man. Although the first 2 fights left fight fans split on the result, the third fight left no doubt in anybody's mind. In the first round, the reigning featherweight champion proclaimed, "I'm too fast for him," before then backing it up throughout the remainder of the fight, beating Holloway in a decisive decision. After the fight, there was much speculation as to Holloway's future at 145 pounds. With 3 losses to the sitting champion, it's no secret that it would be incredibly difficult for the former champion to get another crack at the title. As many questioned whether or not a move to lightweight is in Holloway's future, the featherweight champion thinks his longtime rival is still better than most of the fighters in the division.
I still think he was a great champ. I still think he's a great fighter, and I still think he beats most of the top guys anyway. We've got a very strong division. A lot of guys are coming up, and obviously through watching me fight and watching some of the top guys fight, everyone's going to start evolving more and more and more.
As Volkanovski went on to explain, he doesn't think Holloway's losses were the result of him declining as a fighter. He simply believes he's fighting on another level right now. Currently, there's been no word as to when Holloway will return to the octagon. However, if fight fans have their way, he could be matched up with streaking contender Arnold Allen next. What do you think the future holds for Holloway? Will he maintain his status as one of the top fighters at featherweight, or will he make the move up to 155 pounds for the foreseeable future? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for joining us today. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from the MMA Zone. See you next time.